No, no, no. I will not fix your computer. But we will talk about Drupal. Stay tuned.
We interrupt this program for an important bulletin.
Welcome back. We have Scott Mattoon, Chief Architect of the U.S. Western Region. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Khalid.
So before we get into Drupal, tell us a little bit about the type of folks that you work with.
Well, I cover the 11 western U.S. states, and I see a lot of large enterprise customers primarily, and also a lot of internet startups and what we're referring to now as the Web 2.0 set of companies.
And before we started taping, you mentioned an interesting trend that I thought our audience might like to learn more about.
Yeah, well, of course, it revolves around open source adoption. We're seeing sort of what I think of as the second wave of open source adoption within enterprises and large institutions. They're seeing that there's now sort of a higher value stack available to them built on open source technology like Drupal.
So in that sense, it's not just startups who are using a lot of this open source software, but we're seeing a lot of enterprise customers now adopting open source and seeing the value around it.
Yeah, we're, I think, at the very kind of bottom of a pretty steep adoption curve right now.
Excellent. So with that as a reference, tell us a little bit more about Drupal.
Okay, well, Drupal is a free and open source software content management system, CMS. And it was developed in 2001 and based on PHP. It's grown into a really thriving community with thousands of developers. It's been extended with Drupal's modular capability to have literally thousands of add-on modules to extend capabilities for things like e-commerce, Creative Commons licensing and attribution, for example.
So there were content management systems before, and a lot of commercial ones, especially in the mid-'90s, and there are some other open source content management systems. So what makes Drupal special?
Well, so the other ones that I'm familiar with are Joomla, Plone, Cake. These are the open source ones, and of course there's the commercial ones too. Drupal's got a really nice architecture. It simplifies the job for the developer, and it's really taken on sort of a viral nature. People are adopting it in nonprofits and activist organizations as well as enterprises, so you see it sort of spanning a lot of different needs.
Great. So when did it, so you said it started 2000, 2001. Right. When did it hit the limelight?
Well, there was definitely a trigger event, and that was in Howard Dean's 2004 bid for the U.S. presidency. He was known for having an online campaign that was very successful, and that was really centered around something called Dean Space, which was built on Drupal. And the success of that campaign really triggered a huge wave of adoption in political activist organizations and nonprofits and cultural institutions.
And basically, folks took notice that hey, here's a solution that can take a lot of traffic and manage it well.
Right. It proved that it can scale to that sort of CNN level kind of demand.
Can you frame how popular it is?
Well, for example, it's been downloaded, I think, about 600,000 times. Over half of that has been in just the most recent year. It's literally deployed on thousands and thousands of sites. Chances are, if you're an active web developer, you've been to numerous Drupal-based sites.
In terms of PageRank.
Right. So Google PageRank, Drupal.org itself, that's not all the other sites that are built on Drupal. Just Drupal.org is PageRank 9 by Google. That happens to be what Sun.com is, too, with its tens of thousands of pages.
Wow. So it's pretty popular.
Yeah, it's very popular. I think it's ranked like about 2,800 in the overall ranking.
Okay, so let's get to the next level. So in terms of, wanting to develop, someone can go out and get are they downloading a set of libraries? Are they downloading a working infrastructure that you can construct, and customize through PHP? Right,
so as I said, it's based on PHP, so you need an AMP stack is typically the deployment infrastructure, right? So you need Apache, MySQL, or Postgres, and then PHP. And then from there, you just need the Drupal package. The current release is 5.2. Right. 6.0 is due out sometime this fall. Go get that package, install it. It's a pretty straightforward installation process. And once you get it installed and Apache's connected to it, you can then go through the database installation from there. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. And in terms of customizing it and extending it, is that all through PHP?
There's a really nice API exposed through PHP. So there's libraries. There's actually great documentation out there and a couple of good books too, to lead you through good coding standards, coding practices, how to leverage what they call hooks in Drupal to connect to the existing functionality or override core Drupal functionality as well. So the architecture is built so that you don't actually clobber anything in Drupal core, but instead override certain things that don't work for you, or you need differing functionality. Okay.
And in terms of databases, it runs on a variety of databases. Are there some good open source databases it works on?
So the ones that it's bomb-proof or rock solid on are Postgres and MySQL.
Oh.
So people have experimented with others, but those are the main ones it's deployed on.
And those both are available on Solaris.
Yep, that's right.
So in terms of doing PHP development, our developers want to customize it and enhance maybe their installation or maybe commit back to the project itself. Mm-hmm. Are there some good tools?
There are. The one that I think is really interesting from a Sun perspective is our NetBeans IDE, and there is a PHP plugin for NetBeans, so it makes it really convenient for a PHP developer to actually use that, what's been traditionally associated with Java development for PHP.
Wow. So yeah, the NetBeans is doing Java development, JRuby and Ruby development, and JavaScript, and now it has functionality to do PHP as well. Yeah,
and it really simplifies the job then of deploying your code and iterating quickly on features and bug fixes.
Okay, great. So you brought something for show and tell.
Yeah, and it's just an example of the stack that Drupal is typically deployed on. And we'll start at the top. So as I said, there's literally thousands of custom modules available for Drupal, or extensions for Drupal that are called modules. I've put two examples here, the Creative Commons licensing and attribution module, which will let you actually assign licenses to different levels of licenses, so the share alike license, for example, to different nodes or content within a Drupal site. So you get that sort of attribution there. Civi CRM is another really popular, rich functionality that is a module for Drupal that gives you what we think of as customer relationship management, but what that community refers to as constituent relationship management, because again, its origins were with activist organizations and nonprofits, right? So those are two examples of the literally thousands of modules that are out there. Then there's the Drupal Core. Again, we're release 5.2. And then if you're deploying in the Sun world, the amp stack that we provide is optimized for both our Spark architecture and the x64 platforms, both Intel and AMD.
So basically, Drupal will run extremely well on the Solaris platform, with our AMP stack.
Yeah, it's really optimized. You get some great performance out of that. Plus, it's got the most commonly used PHP modules already compiled for you. And then, of course, Solaris 10 with all its advantages around, for example, for the developer, it's really interesting that you can use dtrace to find those inefficiencies or the hamster wheels in your code very quickly.
Are there dtrace probes in Drupal itself, or is
not
it
for Drupal, but for PHP?
Okay.
So there are actually some good PHP probes for Drupal right now. In fact, if you go to download our AMP stack, you'll find links to the dtrace probes for PHP as well.
Well, excellent. So basically, Drupal is a content management system and more. In essence, it
really is. I mean, there's sort of a split, an interesting debate within the Drupal community about, well, is it a content management system or is it a framework for developing major applications?
One last comment. I think it's pretty interesting that you are actually here talking about Drupal because, you're out there in our field organization, working with the sales folks and dealing with lots of customers in the enterprise space, yet you're so passionate about, this open source project. And it's just, we get a lot of technologists and other folks here, but, you're someone who's actually dealing with, working with customers to do, get their solutions up and running and using open source software.
Yeah, well, cool. Thanks for noticing that.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll be right back with another cool gadget.
Hey all, I'm Greg Poston, the Geek Gadget Guru, and I like to sleep. I'm sure you guys do as well, but sometimes you have to be up on time. Well, and this is where Clucky comes in. That's right, this is Clucky. Clucky is a clock / alarm clock / get your butt out of bed device, officially called a mobile alarm clock. So has all your features of a natural alarm clock, date, time, and then, of course, your alarm set functionality. But where it differs from your normal alarm clock is that once it goes off, you can hit the snooze button once. But then again, if it goes off again, it takes off. That's right. Big wheels, they keep on moving. So down, off your nightstand, around your corner, and underneath your bed, bleeping and blaring and basically making a racket to get your butt out of bed. So to show you what's going on here, we're going to go ahead and do this. So get your butt out of bed, and I'll see you next time. And I'm Greg, the Geek Gadget Guru, and we're awake. Bye.
Well, that was another great Geek Gadget. Thanks, Greg. So we learned a lot about content management systems and a lot about Drupal. For more information, check out the show notes at blogs.sun.com/SDN channel, and we'll see you next time.